Yeah, yeah, that's great. So let's see. Oh, we'll start going. I wanted to just start. I want to um, talk a little bit before we introduce Lisa about. I wanted to talk about going to our happy place today. I don't know if any of you do that, but that's something that I learned years ago. I did found this exercise, mental exercise program that I was doing, and they had you meditating and going to your happy place, and it was just lifted me so much that I just so much enjoy doing that. And I always go. There's a lake in Vermont that my daughter and my husband and I used to go to every year, and I just will just sit sometimes, and especially if I'm feeling stressed or anxious about something, and go to my happy place and picture us on the beach or picture us on the lake, and it just brings some serenity. So I was wondering if any of you do that, or if have you thought about doing that, and where your happy place is, if anybody wanted to share that.
Mine is in Peekskill, New York. There's the town is terrible, but there's a convent up on the hill that's now a boutique hotel. They just opened it last year. And I believe I think I've lived there before in another life, if you believe in reincarnation, which I never did, but I would have these dreams in my 20s, and then it would kind of end one little section and it would automatically flip somewhere. And I was down in Peekskill, and I went down to a park I'd never been to before. And when I looked up, there was that scene from like where my dream flipped into this other scene. And that was where, and I was like, oh my God, that's why I'm so drawn there. And I've just loved it there for the last 15 years, from when it was a convent and I found it to now as a hotel. I still love the property. I'm just drawn there. And that's my happy place. Unfortunately, it's about 2 hours away from here, hour and a half, 2 hours away. I'm in Wallingford. But that is my happy place. And thankfully my boyfriend has business out there every few months. So he rents a hotel and I'm like, I'm there.
How about your business? Don't mind me. I'll just hang out here.
Anybody else have a place they like to go to, even if it's just maybe fantasy in their head?
Lordship.
Lordship. Oh, the beach.
Yeah, no, the seawall.
Oh yeah.
A lot of people like the seawall.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many stories that start and end at the seawall for me. That, I mean, my husband and I literally planned our wedding at the seawall.
Aww.
One night we were there and we were watching this orange thing off on the edge of the water. And it kept getting bigger and bigger. And we were like, oh my God, it looks like a boat's on fire. And it kept getting bigger and bigger. And we were just like staring at it. And all of a sudden it came up and it was the moon. And my husband, I was dating at the time, looked at me and said, I brought you the moon. So it's like anytime I need to unwind, relax, just feel that fresh air, it's the seawall. So we can never leave Connecticut.
Can I add mine?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
So I love the water. It refreshes me somehow. It just restores my batteries. And for years on my vision board, I would have a nice chair to sit out by a river or a lake, so I could do reading and just meditate and just really commune with nature. And I've manifested that. So I'm not home right now. I'm at my happy place. So I have a little place here by the river. And as I'm looking at you all on my iPad, I brought my iPad with me, I can turn my head and I see the river, and I've been watching the eagles circling above. Wow. So I think that's a good omen. When I see the eagles, I get really excited. But when I'm not here and I need to center myself, one of the things I will do is I will close my eyes and I will meditate, but I'll bring up the sights that I know that are here, and the sounds that I'm used to listening to, as well as the sense of, I can smell people cooking, outdoors and things like that. And it just settles me down. So it's important to have that place, like you said, Sally, whether it's real or if you're just going there in your mind to
Yeah.
settle.
Yeah. And I think mentally we need that right now.
Mhm.
I think we
Big
all
time.
do.
Big time.
So I wanted to introduce Lisa. Lisa is our guest speaker today. And I'll just read a little introduction. She's an international best-selling author and speaker, a national board-certified teacher and achievement coach. She offers inspirational, practical, and spiritual guidance. She teaches women how to clarify their purpose, direction
Sorry.
with intentional acts that help them achieve their goals and live their intentional life. She has an online coaching program and private coaching practice. So
Mhm.
we're excited, and I've been so excited to hear her talk. She has a book. It's called The House with Four Rooms. And so why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got started on this pilgrimage, and a little bit about the book. And then afterwards, we'll see if anyone has any questions for you.
Terrific. Thank you.
I'm going to ask
really
everybody to just mute their microphones so that there's no background.
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm happy to share my message, because a house with four rooms literally saved my life. When I was a young girl, I grew up in a dysfunctional family, like many people, but I found myself homeless at 14 years old. And being homeless, I had to find a way to survive. And so I turned to books. They became my savior. And I read a book, I was early in my adulthood, by Rumer Godden, that talked about, it just introduced a chapter with the Indian proverb, a house with four rooms. And it just stuck with me. It resonated so much that I knew this was going to be the foundation of my life. So the Indian proverb states, we should each think of ourselves as having four rooms. We have a physical, a mental, an emotional, and spiritual room. And we need to go into each one of these rooms daily, not for long periods of time, but we have to go in each day, even if it's just to open a window to air it out. So what does that mean? It means we have to do something for our physical well-being, our physical health. And when I say that, I'm not just talking about our body, but also where we live, our environment. We have also globally, outside in our communities and our world, but it's also talking about your mind, what thoughts you're having. So if you think of your mind as a garden, you need to weed that garden and get rid of those negative thoughts. For your mental room, this is learning, this is intellectual. What are you doing because we're both learners and teachers at the same time. And as lifelong learners, we need to go out there and learn. We need to read something. We need to practice something. So you mentioned earlier that I think it was Debbie and Mary that like crafting. Well, when you're crafting, you're still learning and you're practicing a skill. And that's important for your mind. Whether you're doing, Phyllis, I think the puzzles, that is something that's, again, for your mind. The emotional room, and that's the room that the Indian proverb cautions us. It says, be careful that you're not spending more time in one room over another. And it cautions us about the emotional room. Oftentimes, and I'm going to use women as an example, because that's what I see in my coaching practice, they deny themselves. They take care of everyone else, and they're so busy making things happen or making things perfect. And I'm a recovering perfectionist, but they're so busy doing for everyone else that they don't take care of themselves. And that's where self-care really is important. And oftentimes, lots of times when I see clients, they're the type that are stuck in their emotional room. So they wake up in the morning, they don't even want to leave their bed. They're just overwhelmed. They're feeling depressed, anxiety, and all of this plethora of things. So they ignore their physical room, which what will happen to your physical health if you're ignoring it? What happens to your spiritual well-being if you're ignoring that room? All of a sudden, you're going to see you're not building a house on a solid foundation. So your emotional room, it's important that we visit, but we don't get stuck there, and that we're still going out to those other rooms. And for me, part of my emotional room is my gratitude practice, my meditation practice. These things give me the core foundation I need to construct my life so that I feel blessed with what I have rather than boo-hooing what I don't have or what I wish I had. And then my spiritual room, we visit that, and it's not dictating one religion over another. It's talking about what you're doing for your spiritual well-being and health. For me, I have a practice. I have a daily reading practice, my devotionals, but I'm also a prayer chaplain at my church. And what that means is I'm praying, and I have a prayer book that has become so popular with my clients online. And every now and again, I'll post in Facebook, does anyone have a prayer request? And I add their names to this prayer book because people know I pray with it every single day. And I hold space for the people within this book. So it's become very important to me. So what are you doing for your 4 rooms? And again, it needs to be daily. So that's what this particular book is about, A House with 4 Rooms. It's asking you to stop and really reflect on, number one, who you are right now today, because you might not be the same woman that you were yesterday or the one that you'll be tomorrow. So you kind of look at, where am I at right now? And then look back and see your past. What was your individual story? What have you been doing in your life that made you who you are today? But then you need to look forward, and where would you like to be? So when we talk about this, I often bring in, I'm working on my memoir right now with Hay House, and it's called A Pilgrimage to Self. And that's about going within and really connecting our heart, our mind, our body, and spirit. And I learned this valuable lesson. The first day I walked on the Camino de Santiago, that's the pilgrimage route. There's many of them, but the one that I'm talking about is the French Way. You may have seen the movie The Way with Martin Sheen, and it's over 500 miles. And you started in this small village at the bottom of the Pyrenees Mountains in France. And that first day is straight up. And then you continue on over the Pyrenees Mountains and across northern Spain. And I made it to Santiago to receive the certificate. But then you can go on to the Atlantic Ocean, where they say it's the end of the world. The marker is 0.0 kilometers. It's right there on the edge of the world, where Christopher Columbus stood and tried to convince Isabella that the world was round. So I'm on this journey, and I'm go straight up, and I was probably as red as my shirt. I could not breathe. And now hiking, walk 500 miles was not part of my regimen. My regimen to take care of my physical health was a little bit of a walk. And I thought I had trained for this, but I had never hiked. And now I had a backpack on my shoulders with everything I would need for 40 days on your back, your food, your water, and all of this. And I mentioned to an Australian, I was having trouble breathing. And he told me that what he does, and he's an experienced hiker, is he would count out 100 paces, and then he stopped to catch his breath. And he said, take a look around at where you are, because a lot of times we don't take in those details of where we are right now, and then look back to see how far you've come. So you're acknowledging your progress, and then look ahead to where you want to go. But you have to return to the present moment. Where will I place my feet? Because you need to be safe when you're hiking and climbing. Well, this lesson is true of life. Where am I now? Catch my breath, take a look around and be reflective. Take a look back to see how far I've come at my progress, because that's who made me who I am today. And then look ahead to see where you would like to be, who you want to be, because it's all a matter of your choices. And then go back to where you are right now and take those action steps to move you forward. And I think sometimes women, especially, will forget that. And I don't know if I'm assuming you're all mothers and have children, but sometimes when that little baby is starting to get up and walk and they're kind of toddling there and they fall down, we don't run to them and say, oh, you know what? Walking is not your thing. You would concentrate on something else, right? Rather than that, we say, oh, good job. Come on, get up. And we're so encouraging. Try it again. Well, when it comes to ourselves, if we do something and we fail, it doesn't work out the way we think, for some reason we connect to, I'm not good enough. This isn't for me. I can't do it. No, the truth is, you have to understand the power of yet. Just like that baby that can't walk yet, I can't do whatever it is I want to do yet. So for me, it's technology. Technology is crazy. It's crazy great when it works, but when it doesn't work, I'm quick at clicking and pushing button to try to get it to work. But I'm willing to try. And rather than beat myself up like I would have done, I take a pause. I reflect on where I am right now and how far I've come and where I want to go. And all of a sudden, I can see where I need to place my feet. I can see how to do what it is that I need to do. It's the power of yet. I haven't learned yet. And from that perspective, with that growth mindset, I'm now able to not beat myself up and to realize that I'm still learning. And as I learn, I will learn even more. So again, 4 rooms. Think about this. Your physical room, your mental room, emotional and spiritual rooms. If you're doing something daily in each one of these rooms, it naturally overflows into every area of your life. And when that happens, you're not having that knee-jerk reaction. So again, this is before COVID times, because I have some health conditions, so I'm quarantining myself. But traffic was a problem at one time for me. Someone cutting me off in traffic would really bother me. And then I realized, you know what? Let them pass. And so I might go to raise my hand. They probably think I'm going to do some kind of a gesture, but rather than do a negative gesture, I'll say, you go ahead. Or the other thing that would bother me, and I'm going to be vulnerable and tell you the truth, it still bothers me quite a bit sometimes, when I go to the grocery store. Now, I'm typically running in and running out because I don't want to be there. I don't want to be around people. And when I go in and I see someone has more items than what is expected on the sign, that has a tendency to irritate me. I want to be able to say, I counted, and yes, I have there, less than the required amount, so I should be entitled to use this cash register. Well, now I don't get upset anymore. I don't have that knee-jerk reaction because I know I can cope, that it's going to be okay. And I have breathing exercises right away I can go into that help settle me. When we talked about earlier about your happy place, sometimes I use those occasions to go to my happy place, to make sure that I'm centering myself and know that I can lower my blood pressure. I don't have to fight or confront anyone else. That if I'm handling my life with grace and dignity and doing it on my terms, I'm being intentional, I have less confrontations. I have less worries. And when I carried that backpack on those spiritual pilgrimages, I don't know, my first backpack, the first time I did it, it was 26 pounds without food or water. Big mistake. I learned that when you carry less, you can go further. Well, what I was carrying in that backpack were my worries and fears. And if you take, and I often do this, I'll make a fist with my right hand and put it in my left hand and feel that pressure in my hand. It's a way that I remind myself through touch and just the act of the muscle memory of doing this, that I carry more faith than fear. I can let it go. So when that person in front of me in the grocery line has more items, or they've cut me off, or they're not wearing their mask properly, or whatever the circumstance is, I can remember that I carry more faith than fear, and I don't have to knee-jerk response. I can control and choose how I want to respond. In traffic, I can choose to put up my hand and say, you pass, you go first. I have the choice. And that's what this philosophy has given me. It's given me a way to live so that I remain in control. I put that oxygen mask on myself first. If you've been on an airplane, why do we do that? Why do they tell you to put that oxygen mask on first before you help others? As a mom, as a woman, typically, we want to take care of everyone else. Well, if we do that, we will deplete our own oxygen so that we're not able to help anyone else. So how could you put that oxygen mask on yourself? And how could you do it daily? You're already doing things right now that are probably helping your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual room. I have a client that I'm working with. Her spiritual room, she's on it. She spends a lot of time in her spiritual room. So much so that she didn't recognize that her weight was creeping up because she was ignoring her physical room. And now that her scale is over 300 pounds and she can't even use her household scale, she's recognizing I've spent too much time in the emotional and spiritual room and have not done anything for myself in my physical room. And so now we're working on, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you doing? Because our thoughts are actually creating our feelings, and our feelings are actually creating the actions that we take or we don't take. So once again, we're being intentional. We have the power to change our thoughts, to reframe them, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's easier to deny them or to pretend that everything is okay, that it'll all be okay. But if we keep doing what we've always done, we'll keep getting the same results. So it's important that you, one, analyze what you're already doing in each of your 4 rooms. Now, that might be water intake. That's real important to all of us. For me, I have a blood disorder, so water is very important. So I have to make sure that I'm drinking my water. That's so monitoring what you're doing. For my client, she's now monitoring what she's eating as well by actually writing it down, because there's magic in that. So now she's monitoring that. But what about your physical space? If your physical space is cluttered, or your physical space isn't what you dream of, so when you look at each item in your home or in your office, and you don't say, oh, I love it, or if it doesn't give you, like I see behind Mary, she's got her beautiful, the pictures. Photos are something that can bring us back to a time and place and a happy place. And it only takes a simple look at that photo to remember and to be reminded. So what are you doing for that physical? What are you thinking about for your mental space? Are you thinking positive thoughts? If your tendency is to self-sabotage, are you stopping and recognizing that? Are you practicing self-awareness? Are you listening to the thoughts that you have? A good trick is nowadays, I use my watch, but you can set, I used to use a Fitbit too, but the alarm to go off to remind you, or you could have something to remind you that when you hear it or it happens, the top of the hour, or as the watch will vibrate for me, I stop and just think about, what am I thinking? What thoughts am I having right now? And I'm more aware. I intentionally read every day. Now, I'm also an author and I also edit books and help others. So I'm doing a lot of reading right now, and it's not the reading of choice that I would probably pick off my own shelf. I'm reading other clients' work, but I'm still learning. I'm still thinking. I'm still engaging. I'm learning a new thing. I'm learning fishing. So that's a new habit for me here at my river place. So I'm going to learn how to salmon fish because I'm in the Pacific Northwest. And salmon is good for my body, my physical body. So I'm making one thing lead in, drip into another. So what are you doing daily? Perhaps you're taking piano lessons, or maybe you're reading, or maybe you're taking a course. Personal and professional development. What am I doing each day? Intentionally. For your emotional room. For me, because I've had health issues, my breathing exercises are very important for me because I only have one lung. So by breathing and practicing my breathing exercises, it helps my whole body, so my physical body, but it helps calm me again so I can be intentional on how I want to respond to whatever situations come up. And I'm also able to meditate, and then that spills over into my spiritual realm. My spiritual realm, I already said I had a prayer practice, but I also have that meditation practice because I believe when I'm praying, I'm talking, but when I'm meditating, I'm listening. And when I listen, I'm listening for the God whispers that help illuminate my life and really make my life so more enriched and engaging for me. Find out what it is that you do that helps you. And if you need to change and you want to adopt a new habit or make a new routine, I teach my clients something called Kaizen. And Kaizen, this is Japanese, and what it's about is making small incremental changes every day. So for instance, I told you about my client, and she's got it down pat in her mental room and her spiritual room, but her physical and emotional rooms are not as strong. So I have her writing down what she's eating and being intentional, right? So she can see and be more self-aware. She's also practicing her breathing exercises. She's writing in her gratitude journal each day. She's practicing forgiveness, which is something that for some people is very difficult to do. So she's being more aware of her forgiveness practice, but she's doing these things in incremental bites. So for instance, she said she didn't like water. Well, we got to change that up. We have to try something. And right now, she'll drink her water. She's putting cucumber slices in it, or she's putting some lemon in it. And we started out, was it 22 ounces? 24 ounces. We started out at 24 ounces. And now she's up to drinking 3 of those a day. And so do you see how it just takes a little bit of practice? She couldn't walk. She was having trouble. So because she works and she's still going to work every day, I have her parking further away from the door. So trying to trick her, right? She's actually walking because she's getting to go to her that little bit of walk. For her house, her bedroom's upstairs, and her office, her home office is upstairs. But she's been doing an awful lot of work in her dining room and her living room right now during COVID. Well, rather than go get something from her office, she was asking one of her kids. Now she's going up those stairs. She's getting what she needs and she's retrieving it herself. All of these things are little, but they're going to add up and make big changes. And so far, and she's only been practicing this maybe for, I think we're on day 42. So again, she's making these changes and she's seeing that, yes, the weight, it's not going to happen right away, but the weight is coming off. But she's feeling better about herself. She's feeling lighter. Again, it's because she's visiting all 4 rooms. She's not ignoring one over another, and she's participating in this philosophy. and she's being intentional and purposeful. And that's what I want to recommend to you, is to think about what you're doing today in each of these 4 rooms. Think about how you could introduce something differently or more and add it to what you're doing. And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to take a long amount of time. It just has to be intentional. And when you do things with intention, it's like magic. It's like magic. And that's what I would wish for you, that you would be intentional and stable in each of those 4 rooms and build your house on a solid foundation by practicing those self-care things that will make you a better you. So I hope that that is something that helps. Did you have any questions? Or things you could share with me that you're doing already?
Anyone?
I've been walking and I've recently, I mean, it's just a little thing, but I download audiobooks from the library. So it's like, I can't wait to read the next chapter, listen to the next chapter as I'm walking in it. And it's wonderful because it makes the time go by faster.
Absolutely. And do you see, you're doing something and it spills over. It
Right.
spills over. So I work with clients that are writing, and I have them do something kind of similar to what they're listening to the audiobook when they're writing, and so that they don't have to look at a blank page the next day. I have them stop in the middle of a chapter. And so when they go back the next day, they're reading and it starts those juices flowing again. And it's
Right.
something that they enjoy. So with that audiobook, if you can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
And it's not like, oh gosh, I got to go take a walk. It's like, oh, I want to find out what's going to happen next in the book.
That's great.
My biggest issue is derailing myself. I can be spot on, and then as it becomes or starts to become habit, I self-sabotage. But also, yeah, I'm one of those people that put everybody else before me. And perfect example, I did fine tracking right up until Thursday. Thursday, I was off Thursday, Friday, and went to my daughter's house, watched my granddaughter for 2 days, 2.5 days, in a house that there was no food for us. So I got frustrated, and I did Instacart because I can't walk that well. And I could have ordered good stuff, but I was so frustrated. I ordered what she wanted and what I wanted. And, there was some healthy mix of stuff because she likes her fruits and cucumbers and stuff like that. She's 4. But Mimi had to throw back in cookies and, stuff like that I knew, Doritos that her mom and dad wouldn't buy her. And we could both snack on together. And it's like,
So you ordered emotionally is what you did. You placed in an emotional order is what you did.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
And so one of the things that you said, Mary, is you're right. Some of us do self-sabotage, and we do head into that emotional space where what's going to make me feel better. And so sometimes for some people, that's the cookies, right? Or introducing the Doritos to our children and our grandchildren. And you were slightly intentional, but you also were a little bit more emotional in your list building. And so one of the tricks that I'm going to offer you, especially for self-sabotagers that works, you can use a rubber band. But so my men wear rubber bands, but my women typically will get a bracelet because it's pretty. And you start with that bracelet on one hand. And your goal is to go 75 days. 75 days. So you're going to say, okay, I'm going to put my bracelet on my left hand.
Okay.
And you pick and choose. You can't change. You're not going to change everything overnight. Pick and choose the issue that you want to work with. Every time you make a slip, it's not the end of the world, but what you have to do is take that bracelet and put it on your other arm. The key to winning this game, because we gamify things. The key to winning is keeping it on that same wrist and not having to start over, because every time you change, you have to start over.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Think of something that is in you, that you personally, not your grandchildren, not your husband. What is something that you might want as a reward? For me, I can tell you, I'll purchase a book and I will not open it until it's time for me to get that reward. So what is something that you might want? And it can be, the other thing I use is strawberry cheesecake, because I love strawberry cheesecake, or ice cream is another one of my favorite go-tos. And so what I will do is there's something that I'm working on. I wait for my reward and then I go splurge because I've earned it. And when you figure out what that is, that reward, when you go to make an intentional decision to buy the Doritos or whatever it is you're going to do. I have one lady that's working on curse words. She doesn't want to say bad words anymore because her daughter is expecting the first baby. So she's like, I got to change my language, right? So what she's doing is she's trying not to curse anymore. That's going to be a big reward when that baby comes and start listening to what her grandmother is saying.
Yeah.
But she's also got a reward added to that, so that when she gets to those days, she'll splurge and she'll get what she wants. So again, think of something like that. For you, for that granddaughter, it might be putting $1 into a jar every time you slip up with whatever it is, and then maybe buying her a savings bond or using it for her birthday or a Christmas present, or teaching her how to buy something and give it to someone else that is in need.
Mm-hmm.
So again, your reward could spill over.
Thank you.
But I think for you that bracelet might be a nice visual indicator, because looking at you and intuitively, I'm thinking you might be a visual response person. And so that bracelet, knowing you have to physically move it, put over here, might be something that you'll say, no, I'm not moving that bracelet. I'm going to do this instead. So the Doritos will stay on the shelf, or whatever it is you want to work on.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Thank you.
Yeah.
I might do that. I have a lot of things I need to work.
Well, Sally, we only one at a time though, because we can't. Here's what happens. We pick too many and then we get overwhelmed and we stop. Now, the other thing that you really need to make sure you're aware of is, okay, so I'm going to go back to my client. I'm going to call her Mary, and I'm sorry, Mary, but all of my clients, whenever they want to be anonymous, we call them Mary. Yeah. And so she is, she's doing all of her work and she's doing her stuff and she's trying to be very intentional about it. Okay. But she slips up because we're human beings. We're human beings. So what she'll do is when she slips up, at first she thought, oh, I already went into the cookie jar, so I'm done. You know, I ruined my day. And so she gives herself permission to keep on keeping on. No. When you realize, oh, I made a slip, it's not the end of the world. You can start again. You can start again. And so I remind people of Louis XIV. Louis XIV in France, he threw lavish parties, and he loved people and he loved artists, and he wanted them all to come to Versailles. And one of the things he said, which I really love, is that if you think of yourself as an artist and you wake up in the morning and you have that blank canvas, so Sally is an artist, so she has her blank canvas, and if you paint something today and you don't like it, when you wake up tomorrow, you start with a brand new canvas. Whatever colors or strokes that you were using the day before that you didn't like, don't do them. Change it up. Be the creator of your canvas each day. What are you willing to paint? Or as an author, what am I going to write? Because whatever chapter you're in right now doesn't have to be the final chapter. You're in control. You have the pen to be able to scribe what you want your life to be. But picking up that pen and actually writing it for a lot of people is very difficult because they're afraid of failure. What if I don't do it? Well, the first thing you have to do is actually come up with your plan, because once you have designed a plan, then you can come up with those action steps. Just like that baby getting up to walk, you come up with those action steps and you're able to figure out, where do I place my feet?
That's great. Anyone else have any questions? Comments?
No, I think I have to agree with Mary. I'm very big on self-sabotage for some reason. I don't know why. And it just keeps happening. And like, I know it's happening and I know what I'm doing. And yet I don't know how to move forward sometimes.
So Phyllis, recognizing this and admitting it is the very big step. And when you are more self-aware and you're acting intentionally, you're going to notice it a lot more. And when you notice it, that's when you're going to take a deep breath and you're going to recognize it and say, I know this. It's very much like knowing when someone is nasty to us and they make comments or they try to push our buttons and hurt us. We recognize that that's what they're doing. You're doing it to yourself. So recognize that you're doing it. Say, okay, I recognize this feeling. I recognize this behavior. It's not getting me the results I want. Now that I've recognized it, I'm choosing to do X, Y, or Z. We can always get back on that hamster wheel, Phyllis, if that's your choice. But when you start to say, I recognize this habit, I recognize this is happening, I'm not going to do this today. I can always go back to it tomorrow, but right now I'm going to try this instead. When we start doing that, we take control back in our lives. And then all of a sudden we're seeing the wins. And when you start recognizing the wins that you're having, that comes with the gratitude practice, right? You're recognizing the wins. Suppose your boyfriend, you said you had a boyfriend. Suppose he all of a sudden was starting to say thank you for things that normally, it's over. You think, oh yeah, we did it for each other. But then he says, wow, this was a great dinner. Thank you. This is wonderful. Sometimes we don't even hear those comments and don't take them in enough. Mm-hmm. But if you could reframe your thoughts and really be self-aware, you could then turn to him and say, thank you. Thank you for sharing that information. And if you have a gratitude book, if you would take 5 things every day at the end of the day, it's important. I always teach at the end of the day, write down 5 things that you're grateful for that day. Now, that would be one of those things. He mentioned that he liked my cooking, or he thanked me for this. Whatever it is, that becomes one of your 5 things. And all of a sudden your perspective is changing, because when you change your perspective, what you look at changes.
Got it.
Yeah, my mentor, Wayne Dyer, used to say that all the time. You change what you're looking at, and what you're looking at changes. And so when we look with gratitude and we are purposeful, it really does help us. Now, for some people, I mentioned being stuck in that emotional room. They don't even want to leave their room and get out of bed in the morning and face the day. Mm-hmm. I would rather have my clients get excited. Oh, it's a new day. What's going to happen today? And that's how I'm feeling only because I got so much going on that I'm excited about, right? But if I wasn't, I wouldn't want to leave my bed. I wouldn't want to leave my bedroom or start my day. Mm-hmm. But if I told myself I made a commitment to find 5 things every day, you're not going to find them in that bedroom. I got to get up and get out of bed, and I'm going to have to get out and find those 5 things. And just that act of saying I'm making a commitment and I'm doing it, and being purposeful and looking for those 5, you're going to find yourself finding more than 5. And then your book is going to fill up, because you don't have to just write 5, you keep writing, right? And then on those days that are tough, we're human, we're going to have tough days. You go back and you look and see some of the things that you've written on other days, and it reminds you, oh yeah, I forgot about that. Because how many things happen in our lives that we say, I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this moment. I'll never forget my child's first words or the first time this. Guess what? You take a photograph. Remember when we had photographs? I'm going to do my photo albums later. And then we get back to later and we go to do our photo albums. We can't remember the people in the picture. Right? So you need to make sure that you're writing it down and you're acknowledging it and you're aware of it. Because when you do that, that naysayer that lives in you, that self-sabotager, you're going to end up writing them an eviction notice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because eventually they're going to see that you're stronger than they are, and you're going to ask them for their rent money. If they're going to be taking up real estate in your mind, you want something back from them. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to want to pay you, so they're going to leave you alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yesterday was a tough day, and because I am still working a full-time job while I'm trying to do the real estate, so I'm trying to make a career, but I'm stuck in a really miserable logistics job that you get yelled at, and it's people just don't like you. And so I ended up having one real estate client that kind of went on hold because the market is just terrible right now, and so they've just had enough of, being declined on their offers. And then another one, I just didn't send an email fast enough. And so she found out with her mortgage company, she can get another agent, but get $2,000 off her mortgage. So she went with somebody else. So I've got one on hold, one goes with somebody else. And I'm like, I suck. I suck. And it's not me. I know in my head, it's not me. It's the circumstances. And so on the way home, I kept going, nope, it's not me, it's the circumstances, and maybe that client just wasn't right for me, and that's why they're not with me, and then this is why this happened. So I'm like, okay, I've just got to, make sure I get my emails in line and, just kind of adjust. And, and then today, like Zillow's ringing off the hook and I'm not answering any of it because it's like, I'm just afraid now that.
Mm-hmm. So that self-sabotager is in your way. And so
right.
but you're recognizing that. So that's really great. So as an achievement coach, another thing that I teach my clients that really might help you, Phyllis, and maybe others as well, is something called the Pomodoro Technique. Are you aware of it?
No.
Okay. So anyone here practice Pomodoro? No?
I've never heard of it.
Okay, so this is going to be this. I don't know if you have your own businesses, but this works so well. So a Pomodoro in French is that Pomodoro is that the tomato, the apple timers that you used to have in your kitchen. So what you do is you set yourself up. Typically, they say 25 minutes. Now, depending on my task, I might set my timer for 25 or 45. It really depends on my task. But primarily what you're doing is you're setting that timer for 25 minutes and you're focusing on whatever that task is. Okay. When the timer goes, and when I say focused, I'm not talking about multitasking now. I'm talking about really focused. Okay. When that timer goes off, you get up, you stretch, you go do something else, you go get some water for that physical room, which also feeds the brain and all your other vital organs. And then you sit down and you can set that timer again. And you're staying focused for whatever that is. So that's the Pomodoro technique. And you can get so much done when you're not focusing on, like if you were doing the job at where the people are there, and you're not thinking about the real estate so much. When you're working with your real estate hat on, now you're focused. So that means you can no longer think about what was said at the other job, right? Think about it. We all carry a garbage bag of things around with us. And so when you show up for work, you have a personal garbage bag of what's happening at home or what's going on. It's not fair to when you cross that threshold for you to carry that bag into that employment, wherever it is. So you need to put that bag down, but realize as soon as you cross that threshold, there's a bag waiting for you right there, right? It's all those people you work with. So you deal with that bag. Well, you don't want to take that bag home with you. So as you go to leave, in your mind, visualize putting that bag, garbage bag or suitcase down, cross the threshold, pick up your personal one, and then go to the next place. Okay. And so don't commingle your real estate. Don't commingle your funds. Don't commingle all of that earnest money. You got to make sure that it's kept separately. And so that's a trick that might help you. When you go into that real estate hat, put on that Pomodoro and concentrate and focus on that. Now, another trick that works is the top 3. When typically what I do is I plan out my whole year, then I plan out my month, and then I go to my week, and then I concentrate on my day. So I concentrate by doing my top 3. Meeting today with you all was one of my top 3. Okay. And so I knew that this was important to me. And it was whatever you think is going to make your life better, richer, or is for your job to move you forward. Think of that baby taking those steps. Pick your top 3. Now, I'm going to be honest. Sometimes you have to do something. Your top 3 is something that you don't want to do, but it would move your real estate business forward. Okay. Whatever those top 3 things that are going to make you be a better realtor, you need to do, then you identify them and then you do them. Once those are done, you're going to keep going, right? And clicking things off your checklist. But once those 3 things are done, you're going to be building momentum. And if you're practicing that Pomodoro technique that I just talked about, imagine, Phyllis, I don't know how much time you spend doing writing ads or doing social media for your real estate business or working on a website. Imagine if you were focused just on that and not worried about anything else. You'd get stuff done. Imagine if you said, okay, I'm going to do cold calling and I'm going to call 20, you pick a neighborhood, wherever you want to farm it. We used to call it a farm, right? Pick that neighborhood and get those people to recognize who you are, your face and your voice. Get out there, go for a walk, knock on doors, say hi, or people that are out doing their lawn. I'm so-and-so, I'm Phyllis. Here's my card. I'm your local realtor, and I'm just walking to say hello and get to know the people of my neighborhood. Do you know, are you or someone you know interested in buying or selling a home? Because I want to be here for them. Or that house right there next door to you is for sale. Wouldn't you like to pick your neighbor? Do you know someone interested in looking for a home? Do you see how you're changing things up now by focusing on what it is and picking your top 3? You can get your needle to move by doing that. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And here's the thing. You're going to get no's. We're all going to get no's. But you're going to get practice. With each one of those no's is a practice. And with each one of those no's, Phyllis, that's a no for today. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right.
In real estate, people might get divorced all the time. Unfortunately, they might have to sell that property, or they might have to look for another one. And
Right.
guess what? They're going to remember the lady that was walking around passing out a single flower, or whatever it is you do, or you even cold calling and saying, hi, it's Phyllis. I just wanted to let you know there's a house in the neighborhood that's gone up for sale. And I just wanted you to know that it's available if you have any friends that might be interested in moving in.
Okay.
You're going to
Sounds
do
good.
that. You want them to like, know, and trust you.
Mhm. I'm pretty darn likable.
There you go.
We like you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, last night I was like I knew I was just doing that voice, it was in my head, you failed. And I'm like, I'm trying to talk myself out and going, no, it was just, one's on hold. It doesn't mean they're going to go somewhere else. It doesn't mean it's not going to come back around. And
They're not the only one. So Phyllis, how about we try an activity? Name your naysayer. Name that sabotager. Who is it?
Oh gosh. I don't know what I'd name her right now, but it's probably going to start with a B.
Well, you think about her name, and when she comes up, you call her and you tell her, not now, Carol,
Yeah.
not now.
Yeah,
I hear
that's a
you.
good one because on the way home, I was like, nope, you've come through before and things have been worse and it's going to be fine. There's always another client, there's more calls coming, and then I just get like, oh God, I don't know if I want to take the call because you never know what's on the other end, so.
Right. But here's something you admitted earlier. You allowed her to make it so that you didn't do the calls today.
Absolutely correct.
And
Absolutely correct.
and that didn't help your business.
No.
So Carol was in control of you, or whatever her name is.
Yeah.
So guess what?
I like Carol personally. So
okay. Well, you need to tell her, well, Carol, we can go out for drinks sometime, or we can go out for dinner. But right now, this is my job and my livelihood. So we'll have to talk about a different topic some other time. I'm going to work now.
Mhm.
Take control back, Phyllis.
Right. I have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Visit those 4 rooms daily, and you'll get stronger. I promise you, you'll get stronger. And the things that happen, even the people at the 9-to-5 job or whatever it is that you talked about, the name calling and all that.
Yeah.
You're going to remember that sticks and stones will break my bone, right? But names will never hurt me. All of a sudden, you'll believe that again.
Yeah.
You'll believe that again because you'll be in more control.
Right.
And you'll understand that people make judgments all the time about you, and they don't have all the facts.
Right.
They're making what people think of you is none of your business, because you should not change what you're going to do or not do based on their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have all the facts. You do. You know that you have to pick up that phone and make those calls. You know you have to take those calls.
Right.
You know what you have to do. Don't allow someone's opinion of you to dictate who you're going to be.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been great.
Can we do another hour?
Yeah.
well, I love it if you do, Sally. I know you said you got my book. I would love if you read the book. I do have a link in there for a free companion, like a workbook that I put together. And what I'm doing now with my publishing is I'm hoping in the summertime, they're actually going to have they're going to combine the two, and it's going to be a physical book. Right now it's an ebook. And so the two will be combined in a regular book, but it's a matter of getting the word out and getting the ratings and people reviewing it and sharing and building that up. And so any help would be appreciative.
I did put up a link to the Amazon in my weekly email to everybody.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
good.
you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Purchase it on Amazon, and if not, I'll put it again this week, and I'll include the link to the workbook. Is that
Well, they can get the link once they get the book. It's right there, and you can get the workbook. But yeah, I really think that the workbook, Phyllis, I think the workbook is something good because it helps you with that reflection process. And here's the thing: when you start that self-reflection process and you're aware of what you want, all of a sudden your purpose becomes there, and then you align all the actions that will help you with your purpose. And so for some people, it's difficult. I know it was for me when I started my journey of trying to find my purpose. I couldn't identify what I wanted. I could identify what I didn't want, but I couldn't identify what I wanted. And so I had to work backwards. And once I brainstormed all the things I didn't want, I was able to focus on what I did want. And one of those things was that I wanted to be more in control of my own life. I didn't want other people telling me who I had to be and what I should be doing. And I'm so grateful that I listened to myself because because even with all the health conditions that I've had of late, I am so blessed. I am so happy. And I feel honored that people trust me to help them with what they want to accomplish. And so it's really nice to be able to see people's dreams come true
Mhm.
and see them achieve.
Right.
Ellie, is it possible we could, like, I know, you have so many weeks slated and different things, but is it possible to do Lisa's book as a book study together? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I said, I don't see why not.
I could come back again, Sally, if you would
Yeah.
invite me. I would love to come back again. And
Well, I know I have May pretty much set, and I think I have the first week of June, but maybe at the end of June we can do, what would it be? Maybe like 3 or 4 weeks? You think we could do something?
we could, or the suggestion that I'm making now, or I'm putting together for book groups, it is one for each of the 4 rooms.
Oh, okay.
Good idea.
Yeah.
I would really like that.
Well, I'll be in touch with you, Lisa, and we'll figure it out. I think that would be, maybe that might be something fun to do in the summer,
Yeah.
July,
And-
and we'll coordinate our schedules. I'm going to be here every Sunday night at this time, so you're welcome to pop in and come visit
Oh.
us again, and just next week I have Charleston Gaines. Do you know him? I don't. He's in Forbes group.
Is he in Forbes group? Okay, yeah.
And he's an emotional intelligence officer with the Air Force, and he's going to talk to us about dealing with our emotions.
Yep. So that's awesome too. Yeah. See, Sally and I have already connected. So whenever you want me around, invite me, and if I'm available, I'm happy to come. Because my philosophy is we're better together. And I don't just say that I believe it. I also had a major health scare where I almost lost my life. And I realized that we only get one life to live. And so even though during my health scare, I told you I lost my lung and the other one is damaged. At first I had a hard time with the limitations, but now I'm doing what I teach everyone else. I'm taking care of myself and I'm getting better. And I'm hopefully living a life that I'm an example that no matter what you're facing or what you faced, you have choices to make for your today and tomorrow's. And we're better together. You're not in this alone, Phyllis, or none of us are in this alone. And if you do feel like ever that you're feeling alone, you have Sally right there, sitting in the middle of my screen. I don't know about you guys,
Right.
but because of Zoom, but she's in the middle of and that's what she's doing. And she's building a community and a group so that you're not alone and you're better together.
Absolutely.
So
Thank you so much.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it. This is like I said, I was pretty young when I learned this message, and it has made the difference of my life because I could have gone the way of my brothers and sisters. And I didn't mention that, but that was not the way to go in the trouble that they've seen. And so I feel good that I was stubborn and I did what I was supposed to do. So, but please reach out anytime, and I'd love to come back.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank you for
you.
everything.
I have a great night. Thank you again,
too.
Sally. I really
Okay.
appreciate
So-
you.